right, look at this real quick. How many people take a foreign language? Raise your hands. 3, 4? There's 4. So we got 4 people that take a foreign language. 4 people, yes. So that means, what do we got, 15? Is that what we have?
14.
There's only 14? So that means 10 no. Name the population. What's the population that we used for our survey here? The class? Students. Explain a little more to me. Students in province stats. Now when you're talking about population, is it everybody you asked? That's the sample, isn't it? So what's our population? Where are we pulling from here? I'm using you guys as a sample, but the whole school.
I told you.
All that homework is.
I told you. You did.
So NT students, all NT students is the population. You gotta be careful of that. I know that's sort of hard to pick out sometimes. But we're taking you guys as a sample because you're easy and you're right here. But the population that we pulled from, the population that you belong to is all NT students. Now, is that the only population you belong to? Me and Molly had this discussion yesterday, because is the only population you belong to is NT students? No. Could I really, if you wrote down Preble County students for the population, could I mark that wrong? No, you're a sample space of those students, right? How about United States high school students? Could I mark that wrong? Not really, but you need to be careful about that, because I will mark it wrong, like on a test or something. If I say we're looking at National Trail schools and you write down all high school students, because we're not looking at all high school students. We just decided to use the population as National Trail. What's the sample? You guys, right? You're the sample. Give me a piece of data. Data could be just about anything. Data is something that describes, analyzes something about your sample or something about your set that you're dealing with.
Some people don't think.
10 people do not take it. Do not take foreign language. 4 people do take it. Either one of those. Piece of data. Is your data a parameter or a statistic? Statistic. How come a statistic? Because we're using you guys, which is our sample. We're not doing the whole population. We're using that you guys just as a sample. Give me an inference. Make an inference about the data that we collected there.
Less people like foreign languages.
All right. So we could say something like, hardly nobody at National Trail takes foreign language. Now, is that a good inference? No, probably not, because when you look at foreign languages, if I was to go down there and pull out the French and the Spanish class list, most of their students are probably what? Freshmen, sophomores. All right? So are you guys a good sample of how many people actually take a foreign language? No. If we looked at this, we got 14 total students. 4 said yes, so I could do this. 14, oops, divided into 4, that's going to give us a decimal, and we could change that to a percent. What is that, like 3? That's 12. That's too much. 2, that's 28. That's 12, 120. How many 14s are there in 120? About 8. 8 is 32. 11, no, 8, 11, 8, so about 28%. So we're saying about 28%, about a fourth of all the students here at National Trail take a foreign language. Does that mean that's right? No. Are you guys a good sample of all the students here at National Trail? Why not?
We're upperclassmen.
You're all upperclassmen. All right, so it's a little biased just looking at this, just looking at you guys. It might be about 28%. That seems reasonable, but that doesn't, I think last year when I did this same thing, I think I had like 1 out of 13 that was actually taking a foreign language in this class. So that was a real low percentage. Again, on the inference, when you're doing an inferential statistic or giving some kind of inference about something, you could say just about anything. You could say everybody at National Trail, or most of the students at National Trail hate Miss Thomas, so they don't take, what'd she teach, French?
Yeah.
So they won't take French. I'm going to tell Miss Thomas I said everybody hates her or anything. I'm just saying you could make an inference like that, right? Loper back here will be playing her this video. Mr. Ebersol said everybody hates you. So, remember what those inferences? When we take the Chapter 1 test, probably next week at some point, we take that Chapter 1 test, and I say, give an inference about this information. Is there much of a way you can miss that? As long as it's something that's related to it. Now, I might write on your paper, really, or something like that. You know, if you put down something completely crazy and off the wall about the information. But it's your inference. It's you're saying, hey, I think this is true from this information. On the homework, questions. You want me to just run down through the answers? So you can check over all of them and then ask for questions maybe? I think I can do that on this assignment. Which questions did I give you guys? Because I couldn't remember. 22 through 23 through 38? 48. I did the whole page because I couldn't remember. Yeah, I did go all through 48 because I couldn't remember what I assigned. Could have looked it up online. Didn't feel like getting up. Number 23. You might want to have your books open to this because I don't have my book here, so if I read something wrong, you can. I got one thing right over there, and that's on the page. That's all. This is one of those things, Malachi, where that helps you get your book out, follow along, so you can understand it a little better. 23, the population is age of all U.S. adults. Sample, age of U.S. adults that own a, what was it, Samsung phone? 24, population, homeowners in Texas. Sample is homeowners in Texas with a mortgage. What other kind of homeowner is there other than one that has a mortgage? What else have you done? you don't have a mortgage, then what's that take? You own the house. 25 population, all U.S. adults, and sample is the 1,000 that they surveyed. Ones like that's a little easier to figure it out, right? They give you a number, that's your sample probably, and then you got to figure out where did that sample, what group did that sample come from? In this case, it was all U.S. adults. Again, how come we do samples?
Takes too much time to build the population.
Right. Not only does it take too much time, are we probably ever going to get everybody? It's about impossible. 26 population, all infants in Italy, and sample is the 33,043 that they, I'm sure they didn't survey them, they probably, whatever it said they did with them, looked at them. Took some kind of data about them. Probably don't go around surveying too many infants. Uh, 27 populations, all U.S. adults again. Sample the 1,442 people that they did whatever to. I didn't write it down. What they did with them. 28. Some kind of vaccine. I got lazy and just started writing the number instead of putting words. 28 populations, all people. Samples of 1,600. 29 registered voters is the population, and then the 800 sample. 30 students at that certain college. Did they say what college it was? They didn't. At a college. And the sample would be the 496. Population, U.S. women. The sample, 546 that they surveyed or whatever they did with them. 32 population is the U.S. vacationers, all the people that take vacations in the U.S. So I wouldn't be part of that population because I never have any money to take a vacation. Samples 791 that they surveyed or watched or whatever. 33 population this time. This is one little confusing because they give you two numbers. This time the population, they could actually take them all because the population that they wanted to look at was just a certain set. So the population was the top 100, what was it, top 100 businesses or something? Companies. And the sample would be the 85 who actually responded. 34, the population is the whole day's production, whatever they made that whole day. And the sample would be 20 bulbs. We'll do this later on in the year. We'll do some stuff with figuring out whether, if you work at a company like this that makes light bulbs or something like that, they can't just ship them out. All right, you can't just make them and ship them out. You've got to test stuff. All right. Now, are they going to test the whole population? If they test the whole population, they never get anything accomplished, never get anything sent to their customer. So what they do is on a production line or whatever it is, how they're making these things, they run so many of them, and then they have a quality insurance person. You know, they give him some big special title, and he goes back through after all these light bulbs are put on pallets or whatever so they can ship them out, and he takes one here and there at random. And then they test those. And there's a certain percentage, you know, so he goes through and he tests them, and let's say the 20 that he tested on what the book said, let's say one of them's bad. Do you think he stops the whole shipment and just says, okay, we gotta redo all these? No. All right? So there's a percentage there that they say, okay, if more than 15% are bad, then we have to recall these. And that's if you hear like recalls for cars and different, a lot of times recalls are for like baby stuff. Hopefully none of you know anything about any baby stuff right now. You don't, that's a little too early in your life for that, right, Malachi? Save that for later. But they recall baby stuff a lot because companies don't like getting sued if a baby gets hurt in a car seat or a stroller or whatever. So that's what they look at on that. 35 was a statistic. 36, if I missed one of these, tell me. I think I forgot to check these. 36 was a statistic. What makes something a statistic again? It's if it's about the sample. What makes something a parameter? About the population. 37 was a parameter. 38 a parameter. Again, if you don't agree with me, make sure you tell me, because I don't think I remember checking these. My son was bothering me about this time to help him with his homework. 39 was a statistic. 40 was a parameter. 41 was a statistic. 42 was a parameter. 43, what'd they ask us for on 43?
Look back at exercise 31 and tell the descriptive range.
So give a descriptive statistic for it. I put more than 56%. That seem right? So that was the statistic. And then it said to do something else, didn't it? It said make an inference about it or something.
Make an inference based on.
Now, again, with an inference, do you have to have what I'm getting ready to say? Not really. Does that mean that your answer's correct? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. The inference I made was more women are primary investors. Does that make sense? Now, does that mean it's true? Not necessarily, but according to their statistics, 56%, that's more than apparently 44%, which would be the men. Anybody put an inference that they want me to check? Don't be scared. I haven't called anybody stupid in the last hour and a half. Nope. All right. 44, same idea, right? Statistic, vacationers spend at least $2,000 when they go on vacation, something like that would be the statistic. And my inference was to go on vacation, you need at least $2,000. That's why I don't go on vacation. I don't have $2,000. 45. My answer on 45 was skip. I said skip it. 46. Do you want me to actually try to do it?
No, I skipped it too.
When you come to one like that, I think it asks you to get on the internet and do something or something like that,
Find
didn't
a
it?
So they go to a
Find a newspaper.
Yeah, it was cool.
When you come to one like that, I probably won't throw a big fit, because a lot of times I just won't put them in the assignment. This one I forgot to leave out. So if you skip over it, I probably won't throw a big deal, unless I specifically tell you, hey, make sure you do 45, because it's going to be important for something that we are doing next class or something. But are you mad at me now, Sydney, because you?
No, I didn't do it.
All right. You just had that look on your face like. 46, part A, the sample was the volunteers. Population, all the people who took the math test. C, what's C ask for?
It's part of the study, it's descriptive, right?
So descriptive, they want a descriptive, and I put down 3 times more likely, something like that. That's one of the statistics that they gave. And D, was D asking for an inference? D, then I put, if you get 8 hours of sleep, what happens? You score higher on the math test. You guys believe that? It's true. It's most definitely true. I help my older sons several times. You know, they'll have, especially my oldest son, he had like a calc test or a pre-calc test coming up, and it'd be 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and he's still studying. I'll say, put the book away and get a good night's sleep, and that helped.
What do you get?
He did well. I don't remember exactly what he got on every test. He's like 24 years old now. 47. A asked for an inference. So it said something about seniors that live in Florida have better memories. All right, so my inference was, if you live in Florida, you're going to have a better memory. Does that mean that's right? No, not necessarily. Why might that not be right? I mean, we do studies like this, and you got to figure out sometimes, because I was watching some news thing. I wasn't watching it last night. I just happened to sit down on the couch. My wife was watching because I don't watch the news. But they said, they gave a number about Donald Trump and said that 67% of people are against the president as of right now. And I just thought to myself, that's not right. Why would I think that their statistic is not correct?
Because they probably pulled from a certain specific group and not everyone.
Let's go back to the election last year. According to all the polls that they were doing before the election, what was going to happen during the election? Hillary was going to win by a landslide. She was way up on him, right? So I'm thinking, all right, because they're just hammering Trump, which I don't think Trump's the smartest guy in the world or anything. All right, he's got to use a little more common sense. He didn't have a whole lot of common sense sometimes. So, but do I think he's the worst president we ever had? No. But when they do this, these are the same news people who were saying that Hillary was way ahead, and now they're saying that Trump, and they were saying Obama's presidential rating was like 80%, which there was never a president in the history of the U.S. that 80% of the people liked. Not even George Washington or any of those people did. You can't get 80% of the people in the U.S. to agree on anything. That's never going to happen. Okay? So when they're telling us that Obama's 80% rating was the highest ever, I'm thinking, you picked 10 people that were at some Obama rally or something, and 2 of them were too stupid to, and you say, oh yeah, I like Obama. And you got 88 out of 10, which is 80%. So you got to be really, really careful when you're looking at some of these statistics. So just because people live in Florida have better memories, does that necessarily mean that there's something about Florida that makes that happen? No. Probably, my guess, and this is my inference, the people who actually can retire, the seniors who can actually retire and move to Florida, probably took good care of themselves, probably had a good job that they retired from, So they're probably pretty intelligent people to begin with. People like me who don't take care of themselves, I'm probably not going to move to Florida when I retire because I don't have the money. I didn't take care of myself. Probably did. Main thing, but I didn't want to be morbid. Is that right? Morbid? Is that right word?
This stuff happens.
So on part B, when they ask you why, might this be right or wrong? Again, that's your opinion. Why, what do you think? Why? Now, if Michael says, well, it could be because of the alligators in Florida, I'm probably not going to give that credit. That doesn't have anything to do with why their memories are better.
So,
The sun's closer to Florida. Is that what?
yeah. Makes me think that
So the closer you are to the sun, the
smarter you are.
so what happened to all those people in South America that live on the equator?
You're asleep. But, yeah.
So there's a limit there. 48. What inference did anybody else make? I'm not going to give mine this time. What inference did you make about boys 2 to 19? Other than Sydney thinks that they're all dummies.
They eat a lot.
They eat too much. I mean, that's apparent by our society today, right? I mean, I try.
Too much fast food.
Too much junk, right? Too much food that's not good for you. Every day I tell myself I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables and stuff to try to get rid of this because I'm not going to last too much longer. Probably have diabetes or whatever else. Take care of yourself. What's the other? Give me something else why boys might be obese now or more obese than they were.
Too much screen time.
Sitting in the house too much. I got trouble with my boys right now. That's all they want to do. Got back on stupid, I don't know, what is it, RuneScape or something. I don't know what game it is online.
Friends?
I don't know, is that what it is?
I don't know. Shut.
There's a couple of them that they do. What? There's, I don't know, what, Jake, do you know which one it is?
Yeah, better.
Is that what it is?
I don't like a computer.
Yeah. So they, every time I turn my back for 10 seconds, they're in their room. Get off of that and go outside and do something. Any questions on that stuff? Sydney, understand it all? That help any? Did it help any, Mariah? I'm not even going to ask Sydney anymore. She won't even help me out here. Try to make me feel good, build up my confidence. Kinda.
You did very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Malachi. Your grade's going up by the second. Section 1-2, qualitative and quantitative. Again, as you write down these notes, who are these notes for? You. I'm never going to look at them again. Right? They're for you. I will try to tell you, and some of you are going to get mad at me because some of you are still under the impression that when a teacher puts something on the board, you should write it all down. That's not the case. Write down what's going to help you. And I'll try to tell you, like on this, I would write down this title. And that's all I would write down. And when we come to something that I say, hey, this is important, that's what I would write down. Now, does that mean you have to write it down word for word? No, try to put it in something so that you'll understand it. Qualitative and quantitative. I think we talked a little about this last time. Qualitative. What do you think that word means, qualitative? What's it dealing with? The quality of something. All right? Well, what's that mean? Does that mean it's got to be good or bad? No. When it says qualitative, quality doesn't necessarily mean whether it's good or bad, even though that's one of the ways that we use it in the English language. It means like a description. So hair color, eye color, shirt color. That's a description, a quality of this shirt. Don't be making fun of it, my shirt either, Brendan, because it's got stains on it, and I say my shirt's white, and you say, yeah, it's only partially white, it's got stains all over it. Yeah, it's because I sweat in it. It's supposed to be white. You can't keep a white shirt. So that's qualitative. Quantitative, numbers. That's where we're actually counting. So qualitative, let's say we're going back to you guys as a sample. Qualitative would be students. All right? Quantitative would be 14. Be able to classify data with levels, with the 4 levels of measurement. This is the one I was talking about earlier that I said I have trouble with because there's a couple of them, and I missed 3 questions, and I just got them mixed up. Qualitative, I might write this down, just qualitative consists of attributes, labels, non-numerical entries. Now you got to be careful with this. It says non-numerical, and everybody thinks, okay, as soon as I see a number then, it's got to be quantitative. That's not the case. I believe if you go out to the parking lot out there in our great hillbilly heaven that we live in here in the National Trail School District, you'll probably find a truck that's got that on it. Right? That's a number. But it's a qualitative piece of statistics because it's dealing with naming that truck. Right? Even though it's a 150, it's qualitative, not quantitative. So you got to be careful with some things like that. They're still qualitative. So stuff like pictures I have here, whatever major you're taking in high school or maybe the major you're going into in college, place of birth, eye color, hair color, type of shoe you wear, those are all qualitative. Quantitative, numerical measurements or counts. So your age, the weight of something, a temperature, how many students there are in this classroom, how many students there are in the school. Those are quantitative. That's quantitative data. So those are the 2 types of data, qualitative, quantitative. This I wouldn't write down, this is just repeating the same stuff. Data sets can consist of 2 types of data, qualitative, quantitative. So you have data, this is just some people, a lot of my PowerPoints for this class, I sort of stole from different places and put them together, so it repeats the same thing over again because maybe Sydney can see this better and she understands that better, and maybe somebody else just wants the words. So you got your data, you could have qualitative data, or you could have quantitative data. The base prices of several vehicles are shown in the table. Which data are qualitative and which are quantitative? We look at this right here. That's qualitative. It's given a name. Even though some of them have numbers in it, it's qualitative. All right, because it's just given, it's just naming it. And this one here is quantitative because it's an actual number. You're giving a price for each of those vehicles. So qualitative, that's what we just said. Quantitative. Miss Miller back here is completely amazed at all the motion and everything I have in my PowerPoints now. Because when she was in my geometry class, she didn't have none of that. It was just a boring, straight white, everything.
Probably didn't make this.
I didn't make any of these, I just stuck them. Levels of measurement. These are the 4 levels of measurement. Hold on before you write any of this down. I want to see something here. You like it written out that way? Or would you rather just see it in words? Do what? Words? Anybody else? Anybody like it this way? Goes lowest to highest. I don't know how they say it's lowest to highest, but. Let's see, going one. Too much. Nominal. First level is nominal. Nominal data is only qualitative. So it's just given a quality. Nominal is always going to be given a quality. It's never quantitative. It never has like a count or a measurement. So nominal data would be like freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. That's nominal. It's just categorized using names, labels, qualities of some kind. You know, red, white, blue, yellow, green. No mathematical computations can be made. Even though you guys might think it, if I write freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and freshman's down here in the first spot, and you guys are in the 4th spot, does that mean you're 4 times better than the freshman? So we can't do any kind of mathematics with these levels. We can't add, subtract, multiply, or divide, or give any kind of ratio about them. Can't say that the seniors are 4 times smarter than the freshmen, or the seniors are twice as smart as the sophomores, or any of that kind of stuff. That's a nominal measurement. Ordinal. What's it mean? What's it mean?
I don't know.
Come on, Malachi, you said it.
I said ordinal.
Oh, I thought you said something else. Where do you think that word ordinal comes from?
Ordinary. Original.
Shorten it up a little bit.
Original. Order.
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 It's in some kind of order. Ordinal level could be qualitative or it could be quantitative. It could be either one. And this is one of them that confuses me all the time, and that I mess up.
So you're not being mad at us if we messed up.
Yeah, I won't be mad at you. I want you to try to do as well as you can. There'll be, I think there's a couple of problems on the test, on the chapter 1 test, that I have to look back at my key and make sure that I think, I'll give you credit for either one of those answers. On it, but. So this is the first level. measurement. This is your second level of measurement. These names that I'm giving you right now, they're nominal. Because we can't say that the ordinal level is twice as good as the nominal level just because it's level 1, level 2. We can't do that math. Sometimes with the ordinal level stuff, we can do some kind of math. But the differences in the data doesn't always make a difference, or doesn't always say the same thing, right? So let's say we're listing the senior class by GPA. We got Dalton Loper as number 1, Malachi Short is number 2, Sophie McCluskey is number 3.
Is GPA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about it.
See, I'm trying to make you look good and then you blow it.
I'll be out.
So I'm listing these people all in order of the highest GPA to lowest GPA. Now, as I look at this, when we're at the ordinal level, when I go from 1 to 2 and Dalton's GPA is 0.3 higher than Malachi's, does that mean it's the same for 2 to 3?
No.
No. So we can't really do that math in there. Now, some things it works out that way, where, and we're going to talk about that in the other levels that we're going to get. Some things, every space means the same amount. For something like that, it's not. So that's at that list is at the ordinal level. It's in some kind of order, but the differences between the different people, you can't really say it's all the same. Does that make sense? Sort of. One of the things that they use all the time is the football rankings. That's college football is getting ready to come up, and right now, Alabama's number 1, Ohio State's number 2, Florida State's number 3. I can't remember who's number 4.
I think it was like,
I think Oklahoma's like 7, aren't they?
they were like 6 or 7.
Penn State's like 5 or 6.
I've been close to them.
We'll go with that.
I think it is. That sounds right.
Now, when we look at this, Ohio State's number 2, Clemson's number 4. Does that mean the people who they polled think that Ohio State's twice as good as Clemson? Because 2 times 2 would give you 4. That's not the way it works, is it? So that's an ordinal level. Ordinal. The third level. Skip over this again. The third level. Interval level. Interval level can only be quantitative. So it's got to deal with some kind of number. Data is going to end up being in some kind of order. The data can be ordered. The differences between the data is meaningful this time. So unlike Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2, where that 1 to 2 just means Alabama's higher than Ohio State, doesn't say by how much or how little or anything. This time the difference does mean something. So from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 should all be spaced the same, sort of. 0 represents a position on the scale. It's not an inherent 0. What an inherent 0 is, and an inherent 0 is you actually have none. Alright? So I walk over and I say, here, Sydney, here's some candy. And she notices that I have none. That's an inherent 0. Alright? Some things, some scales you have 0 on them, and just because it's 0, that doesn't mean that there's none. And I'm hoping if I go back here. The one that we probably think of the most is the temperature. If we look at a thermometer, that's my thermometer, it's spectacular, I know. We have that thermometer. When the temperature gets down to 0 degrees, does that mean there's no temperature? No. Alright? So that's not an inherent 0. That's not where we actually have no temperature, because that temperature of 0 degrees actually means something. Right. Years in a timeline. You know, sometimes you have a timeline. I was helping my son with a calculus problem the other night, and he had to draw sort of a timeline. He was doing linear regression, and I screwed it all up because I didn't read the question like I should have. Well, the timeline, they wanted to start at 1960, but they wanted 1960 to stand for 0. And then go every 10 years from that. So go 1960 was 0, then 1970 would have been 10, 1980 would have been 20, 30, so on and so on. So just because that's 0 right there, does that mean we have none? No, that just happens to be our starting point. Okay? Sometimes 0 will mean none. But for the interval level, 0 isn't like you have none. 0 is something there. It's just holds that space in between 1 and -1. So that's the interval level. All the stuff on a thermometer, if the thermometer goes from 24 degrees to 23 degrees, the amount that it's not mercury anymore, I don't know what's in a thermometer now.
It's a certain type of alcohol.
Alcohol or something. Alright, so the alcohol drops this much on that thermometer. Let's say the next day it's 78 degrees and it drops to 77. That alcohol dropped the exact same amount. So those differences are the exact same all the way down through on that thermometer. Last year. They started doing this to me last year. And at first I had to shut everything down and turn everything back on, then I figured out a better way to do it.
Beat the crap out of her.
Yeah, that didn't. Plus that makes Mr. Fool mad.
Shut down.
It's not that I care that he's mad, but it's just easier. I don't have him sending me nasty emails.
What to tell him that? Don't let it crack.
What I did last year.
Sounds like it's not something we're gonna
Wall or
think.
something in each classroom, just so if it happens.
I should have wrote down one somewhere. I should write down, if this happens, this is what I did, so I remember. And you don't do something for 2.5 months over the summer,
like school.
Because I think I found a better way rather than turning it off like this and have to warm back up because it takes longer.
Right, hit it with the ruler.
I'm gonna hit you with the ruler. Am I still recording?
Good.
Shouldn't be.
Hey, you don't scare me.
So, again, the interval level. This is our third level. Fourth level is the ratio level. Ratio level, stuff like ages, grade point averages, weights, and I'm going to explain that here in a second. The ratio level is more of a mathematical level. The numbers, you can do all kinds of math with them. The interval level, you can't do everything with. If I'm looking at temperatures, if I look at like the temperature of 40 degrees and 80 degrees, just because 80 is 2 times 40, when you're looking at 40 degrees and 80 degrees, does that mean that it's twice as warm? It doesn't really work that way with temperatures, right? You can say it's 40 degrees warmer, but it doesn't really work where you can do the multiplication and stuff with it. At the ratio level, you can do all those things. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, all 4 operations sort of work. And that's what this one says. A ratio can be formed for any 2 pieces of data. So with something like my weight compared to my son's weight, we can actually give a ratio, right? Maybe something like, my pin's off. 220 to 160. My weight compared to my son's weight. I have no idea what my son weighs. We write that as a ratio. We could cancel those. 2 will go into 22 11 times. 2 will go into 16 8 times. So for every 11 pounds on me, there's how many pounds on my son? 8. Does it work that way? Does that fit when you're dealing with weights? Yeah. All right. Could we also do that I weigh, subtract these 2 and say that I weigh 60 pounds more than my son? Yeah. So that also works. With the temperature, that doesn't really work. 40 compared to 80, saying that 40 degrees is half as warm as 80 degrees, doesn't really work that way. One data value can be expressed as a multiple of the other. So maybe I weigh, if I look at my younger son, he probably weighs about 70 pounds or something. So we could say that I weigh 3 times as much as him. That's when you're at the ratio level. So at the ratio level again, ages, grade point averages, weights. So you could use grade point averages. Remember when I listed our students up there with the grade point average, I didn't put a grade point average, I was just looking at the students. So that wasn't at the ratio level. If I go by the grade point averages, then that would be at the ratio level. I could say that Malachi's GPA was 1.2 higher than, who did I use? Sophie's GPA, I think I had up there, right? So I could say that, or I could say Dalton's GPA is twice as high as Malachi's. That's at the ratio level. All right, looking at this, classifying the data. Two data sets are shown. Which data set consists of data at the nominal level? So looking at your 4 levels there. Maybe it'd be helpful to write them on the board over here. What was the first level?
No.
Nominal.
That's quality.
And that's just got to be a quality, right? That's just qualitative. It can't be anything else.
So it's left.
Number 2, ordinal. Ordinal.
Qualitative or quantitative?
That could be either, right? 3 was interval. That's quantitative. 4 was ratio. And that one's got to be quantitative also, right? So looking at these two, that first one, is it at the nominal level? What's it telling us?
TV programs.
Top 5 TV programs. So which level would that one be at? Ordinal. So that one's going to be at ordinal. This one, looking at this, network affiliates in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's at the nominal level. It's just giving us names. So ordinal because they put it in some kind of order. Nominal. Now, how come this one here is not like interval or ratio?
Because it says numbers too.
Can we say that American Idol is 5 times better than CSI, or it got 5 times the viewers of CSI? No, not according to our list here. We don't know. We just know it went in that order. They got more viewers than CSI. So that's ordinal, is that what we said?
Yeah.
Nominal. 2 data sets are shown. The first one there, New York Yankees World Series victories. Which level is that at? Ratio? Anybody agree with that? How about the second one, National League home run totals? Ordinal? Interval? I think we got them backwards. First one's interval. Second one, what's that gonna be? Ratio. Because the way I always think about it, when I look at this list, nobody's got 100, well, let's say Kansas City there. If I look at Kansas City, they got like 124 home runs. New York had 210. Kansas City had almost twice as many home runs. Is that a fair statement to say? I mean, does that mathematically make sense? That they had almost twice as many home runs? Yeah. As soon as I can say that, that tells me we're at the ratio level. So what did we say this one was? Interval? How about that one? Ratio. You can take the differences. All right, we could say Boston had 28 more home runs than Baltimore that year. Here, we can't really take the difference and say, well, 1927 was 4 more than 1923. That doesn't really make sense because it's in years, right? But it does have intervals, or it is an interval. It's quantitative. We can find the difference between 2 dates and say it took 4 years before the Yankees won another World Series, but we can't say that there's anything more or less than or anything like that. This, I don't know, if you wanted to write this down, it might be helpful. I'll put it on here just to, so ways to sort of help you decide. Level measurement, there's our 4 levels. Can you put the data in categories? All of them are yes for categories. Arrange data in order. If you're just at the nominal level, there is no order. All right, so at the nominal level, there is no order. Can you subtract data values? Interval and ratio, yes. The other 2, no. Can you multiply or divide? The only one that you can multiply or divide with is the ratio level. That might help you to decide. Hey, can I subtract and add these together and the number's going to make sense somehow? Then we know we're at the interval level. Can I divide 2 of the numbers and that answer is going to tell me something? Then we know we're at the ratio level. These are the 2 I get messed up on. The math part, I can sort of decide, hey, ratio or interval. That makes sense to me. The nominal and the ordinal, those are the ones that sometimes I can't tell the difference. Go till noon before we actually have the right. Yeah, it's an hour behind. I think it's almost exactly an hour. Somebody gets their phone out and look at the time. Is it 48? Yeah. Can you tell time on that one now?
Yeah.
I bet you were one of them that were complaining when I had it up there when you were in class and I covered that up, weren't you?
Fresh, yeah. I'm sorry, never mind. We got 4 minutes, dang, no way.
All right, your assignment, page 13. Probably should add a few to that, shouldn't
Nah, you're good.
I? I did all 30.
It's okay.
Let me look at it real quick.
Don't be like that. Are you struggling with
This isn't, it isn't really that hard. Let's do that. Those ones I just added are just telling whether it's qualitative or quantitative. Didn't turn in your parent form, make sure you get that into me. Get a calculator this weekend. I don't see you till Monday, right? Get a calculator, TI 83 or 84. Make sure you do this homework. Bad thing about Mondays. What about it? Everybody forgets, especially Monday morning. Oh crap. We had I'm sure I'll be putting down a few zeros come Monday. So my suggestion to you is good. My suggestion to you is do it today during intervention or something if you're here. Get it out of the way so you don't forget about it.